By now, if you've watched this channel before, you will be well aware that I love doing random experiments like swapping teams around in different leagues. But this one might be the most fun. I've taken the top 20 teams by reputation across Europe and swapped them with all 20 teams in the Premier League. That means Real Madrid, Barcelona, Inter, PSG, and 16 more of the most reputable teams in Europe have been swapped with English Premier League teams who are going into their leagues. Let's check out where the Premier League clubs landed, and in Spain we have Brentford, Fulham, Liverpool, Man City, Newcastle and West Ham. Our new Italian teams include Aston Villa, Brighton, Chelsea, Everton, Notts Forest and Spurs. Bournemouth, Arsenal and Sheffield United are now French clubs. The Bundesliga now hosts Crystal Palace, Luton Town, Man United and Wolves, while the Eredivisie plays host to just one English team, as Burnley was swapped out with Ajax. So the way it was done was simply determining the top 20 teams in Europe and directly swapping them with a team in England that matched their position for reputation. After the first season, the biggest club in Europe became the biggest club in England as Real Madrid took out the title by 8 points over Bayern Munich. But what was probably most surprising was Barcelona not even making the European places, while PSG missed out on Champions League football. Villarreal, Marseille and Ajax were the three teams going down, which probably doesn't come as too much of a shock. Spare a thought for Leeds, Southampton and Leicester, who are all heading up in the Premier League with these massive clubs to contend with. Milan travelled to Wembley to take on Sevilla in the final of the FA Cup, and it was Giroud getting on the end of a Darwin Núñez cross to seal the game in a 3-1 win for the Italian, now English giants. Spain became the battle of two teams, but of course it wasn't Real Madrid and Barcelona this time, as Man City hold off Liverpool by 5 points to take the La Liga title. Brentford and Fulham round out the European places, while Las Palmas, Newcastle and Real Sociedad made the other European competitions. West Ham couldn't make it into Europe as they finished level on points with Sociedad, but 10 goals behind on goal difference. The Bundesliga gives us the biggest shock so far. No, not the fact that Man United were the team winning the league by 6 points over Wolfsburg, but the fact that another Wolf-based side, in Wolverhampton, are one of the teams getting relegated from the top tier, while Crystal Palace and Luton Town survive. The Serie A was also won by another English team, with Spurs being victorious by 10 points over Villa, with Fiorentina, Chelsea and Torino making up the Champions League places. Turns out all Tottenham have to do to win a trophy is just pack up and leave the country. Forest got themselves European football, but Brighton could only manage 10th place. But another of our journeying English sides in Everton is getting relegated from the top flight of their new country, and they didn't even have their points deduction like they do in the Premier League, yet still finished rock bottom. Arsenal were the dominant side in France this year as they finished 7 points ahead of Monaco, while Bournemouth managed to get themselves European football through the Europa League. Sheffield United missed out on European football by 1 point as they finished in 8th place on 48 points for the season. But in what is probably the biggest sign that the English leagues are overpowered in this game, is that Burnley are the winners of the Eredivisie in Season 1, beating out Feyenoord by 4 points. They travelled to bottom side Heracles in the second last game of the season, and Manuel Benson opened the scoring for the Lancashire club. And then just before halftime, Wilson Odegaard scored an absolute beauty for Burnley to be crowned champions of the Netherlands. The Champions League saw PSG have their last chance of getting top tier European football next season as they took on Man City. But when Jeremy Doku pounced on a loose ball in the 76th minute, he calmly wheeled around and slotted home the winner for City to be crowned the champions. New English club Bayer Leverkusen were the winners of the Europa League over fellow New English club Roma on penalties, while Lille took Aston Villa to penalties and beat them overall to win the Conference League. Season number 2 is where we may start to see some changes as different teams start making the European places while other teams who would usually be up there start to miss out. And as we head to the Premier League, we see Barcelona have made an extraordinary comeback from last season as they win the league by 7 points over PSG, with Inter, Milan and Bayern making up the other Champions League places. All three promoted English sides in Leeds, Southampton and Leicester held on to survival in the league, with Valencia, Lyon and Sevilla going down. And amazingly, none of the relegated teams from last year made it back up into the Premier League, as all of Villarreal, Marseille and Ajax are stuck in the Championship for another season. Ajax finished in 18th place and have really struggled making the move over to England. PSG have won some silverware this season, with 3 second-half goals taking them over the line against Atletico Madrid in the FA Cup. Moving over to Spain, and all of the English teams have made the European places, with Man City, of course, running away with the league, 12 points ahead of Newcastle. Erling Haaland had a ridiculous season, scoring 46 goals with a 7.78 average rating for the year. Chelsea made up for their poor season last year in Serie A by winning the league by a point over back-to-back runners-up side Aston Villa. Spurs slipped down to 3rd place, while Nottingham Forest are one of the teams going down despite making European qualification last season. They won't be replaced by Everton though, who lost to Cagliari 3-1 on aggregate in the Serie B playoff semi-final, to see them stuck in the 2nd tier for another season. Man United went back-to-back in the Bundesliga, this time holding off Eintracht Frankfurt by a long way. Stuttgart and Mönchengladbach made up the Champions League places, while Crystal Palace were in mid-table. But sadly, Luton Town come dead last to see themselves sent packing to the 2nd tier. But it's Wolves who will be replacing them in the Bundesliga, as they finished top of the 2nd division by 4 points, with 2 big clubs joining them in Werder Bremen and Hanover. Arsenal again found it easy in Ligue Un, as they finished 7 points clear of Monaco, with Sheffield United moving up into the European places. Bournemouth dropped down from last year, but still managed to survive by a long way. And Burnley couldn't defend their title in the Eredivisie, but still managed to finish 2nd and make it into the Champions League, as Feyenoord run away with the league by 14 points. Sides who are actually English but playing abroad dominated the Champions League group phase, with 10 English teams making it through to the playoff stages, including the likes of Brentford, Burnley and Fulham. Progressing through to the semi-finals, it was Italian-English side Chelsea getting the job done over English-Spanish side Real Madrid on penalties, after a wonderful tie going to 5-5 after the 2 legs. And the huge matchup of Spanish sides saw Man City trounce Liverpool 5-0 at the Etihad to face Chelsea in the final, which also went on penalties, as Chelsea got over the line in a boring 0-0 draw that went to a shootout. Because of their FA Cup win, PSG made it into the Europa League, and they successfully won the trophy for the first time, as they beat Stuttgart in the final 1-0, thanks to a 56-minute Goncalo Ramos goal, as he was played beautifully through by Xavi Simons. Meanwhile, England was celebrating another European trophy, as Inter beat Maccabi Tel Aviv from Israel and got off the mark early through Lautaro Martinez, slotting home an easy tap-in, before a bit of pinball action from a corner led to Federico Di Marco being all alone near the edge of the area to smash home a second for the Italian-English Giants. Season number 3 sees another new winner of the Premier League, as perhaps we've made this more of a fairer league than it actually is in real life. Bayern Munich finished 12 points clear of Inter, with Real Madrid having a better season in 3rd place. While both PSG and Barcelona qualify for the Champions League as well. Leeds United are still hanging around with the bigger teams, but all of Leicester, Borough and Ipswich are relegated, with the latter 2 of that group going straight down after last year's promotion. 2 Spanish sides made it back into the Premier League, with Valencia topping the league on 103 points, while Sevilla needed to beat Ajax in the final of the playoffs 2-1 to make their way back up again. Lyon are now the team struggling, as they were the only Forest side who didn't make it into the top 6. And in La Liga, Fulham hosted Real Betis at Craven Cottage in their last game of the season, and thanks to an Awoniyi double and a goal to Adama Traore, they beat the Spanish side 3-0, which unbelievably means Fulham have won La Liga ahead of Man City. All the other English sides made the European places, with Celta and Cadiz the only Spanish teams joining them. But sadly, Athletic Bilbao have been a shock loser in this experiment, as they are relegated for the first time in their history. Chelsea defended their title in Serie A, as perennial 2nd place team Aston Villa was only 2 points behind them. A 3-2 away win after being 2-1 down to Palermo was enough for Chelsea to seal the trophy. Spurs again came third as they couldn't get back to their title winning ways. And Everton again lost in the playoffs in Serie B and will be stuck in this league for at least another year as Nottingham Forest win the league and get automatically promoted. Man United had an absolute shocker in season number 3 as they couldn't do a three-peat of the Bundesliga title. In fact, they didn't even qualify for Europe as they finished in 7th place. Freiburg are the new kings of Europe with Crystal Palace and Wolves both getting themselves European qualification ahead of the Red Devils. Luton Town came straight back up to the Bundesliga alongside another big fallen giant of German football, Hamburg. Arsenal took on third place Lyon on the final day of the season and came home victorious with a 2-0 win over the French side as they sealed the Liga Un title for another season ahead of Monaco by just 1 point. Lyon's final day slip-up means they missed out on Champions League places as they fell to 4th place at the end of the season. Bournemouth have been going backwards fast and they could only muster 14 points to get themselves relegated down into the 2nd tier. And Burnley put up a better fight this season but couldn't get over the line in the Eredivisie as Feyenoord went back-to-back ahead of the former English side. But at least they again qualify for Champions League places. Speaking of the Champions League, this time 4 of the top 5 sides were foreign sides competing in England. Although Man City did top the face with 20 points from their 8 games. Moving on to the semi-finals, and 3 of the sides were foreign sides in England, while the other was Arsenal sojourning in France. And Arsenal and Barcelona played out a cracking tie with the Gunners eventually winning 7-4 overall, while Bayern got over fellow New English side Milan with a 2-1 aggregate win, holding out for a 1-1 draw away in Milan. The final was played in Barcelona and saw Gabriel Martinelli open the scoring from a well-worked attacking move by the Gunners. And there would only be one more goal in the game as Martinelli set up Vieira for a tap-in just in front of goal as Arsenal win the game 2-0 against Harry Kane and his Bayern mates. Also, how on earth are you supposed to tell these two teams apart? What an all-timer of a bad kick clash. Leipzig faced Real Madrid in the final of the Europa League and needed a Luis Openda goal in extra time to get the win for the German but now English side. That was his hat-trick against Real Madrid in one hell of a star-making performance from the Belgian. And on to season number 4 and the last of our full reviews of the seasons. And incredibly, the Premier League went down to the final day of the season with both Bayern Munich and Dortmund on the same number of points and goal difference. Bayern Munich did what they could and dismantled Lazio 3-0 away from home. But over in Dortmund, when Salih Özcan curled a ball beautifully into the top corner, they were surely headed for the title. Atletico pulled one back late through Isaac Babadi, but it wasn't enough as Dortmund win 5-1 and win the league by a solitary goal in one of the most amazing finishes to a season you'll ever see. Speaking of amazing finishes, how about this for a way to end the season between Norwich and Leeds as they each scored 6 goals at Carrow Road, with Adam Ida getting 4 for Norwich and Carlos Perez getting a first half hat-trick for Leeds. But it was a 98th minute goal from Wilfred Gnonto that equalised an extraordinary game. Napoli, Sevilla and Derby County are the teams relegated from the Premier League for this season, with Barcelona, Inter and Bayer Leverkusen getting themselves into the Champions League. It's been a great season for the former German clubs. Lyon bounced all the way back after last year's dreadful efforts and secured promotion with 103 points in the Championship. But they won't be joined by any of Marseille, Villarreal or Ajax, as it's Leicester and Ipswich who make their way back up again. Man City took the La Liga title back after last year's shock by finishing 3 points ahead of Liverpool, with Newcastle and Fulham also making the Champions League. In fact, the top 6 of Spain are all English clubs as they have really taken a stranglehold over La Liga. Chelsea again dominated the Serie A with a 14-point buffer over Spurs in second, with Villa finally dropping out of second place to finish third. Both Brighton and Forest survived for another season, with Forest only being a win outside of relegation. And they will be rejoined by Everton once again as they actually managed to get themselves promoted automatically this season, despite their rather low league total of 67 points. Man United showed that last year was just a terrible blip as they regained the Bundesliga by 5 points over Hoffenheim. Wolves survived for another season in the league, but Luton were once again relegated in dead last place. Clearly, Arsenal have now just become the new PSG as they win another Liga Un title, this time by 4 points. Sheffield United are enjoying their time in France now as they have jumped up to 3rd place, only 4 points behind the league winners. And after last year's awful season, Bournemouth have bounced back to finish top and get themselves promoted again. And finally for the leagues, Burnley have slipped down to 3rd place this season as Feyenoord are again the winners. But the big story here is the lack of European qualification for the Dutch league, as only 4 teams have made it in. At least, I thought that was the case until I looked at the second league where Almere City are actually the winners of the Dutch Cup, 2-0 over Heracles in the final to progress through to the Europa League. They actually finished in mid-table of the second division and they are going to Europe. Okay, we're going to go 10 seasons ahead now and see how all these leagues have panned out. So first off, going into the Premier League, of course, and Real Madrid are the champions ahead of Bayern, Dortmund, Lazio, and Barcelona, with Inter also making it into the Champions League. So they've got 6 teams in the Champions League. The closest English team there is West Brom. And let's have a look if there's any others. Leeds United are there, and Leicester City have just been relegated. So it looks like all of the big European teams are making their names known in the Premier League these days, while the other English teams who started in the Championship are really struggling, apparently, except for West Brom. Let's check out the past winners, and we see a bit of Spanish dominance recently, with Barcelona winning it twice previously before Real Madrid's win this year. Leverkusen, Lazio, Real Madrid again, and then Dortmund, which is where we left off in the video. Bayern Munich have had second place 4 times now since their last win and haven't been able to get another Premier League trophy. Unfortunately, none of the English teams have made it into the top 3, which is probably to be expected because these European teams that have come into the Premier League are way bigger than them. If we have a look at the Championship, and do we see any of our teams? Marseille is really struggling down in the lower reaches of the Championship there, and Lyon is mid-table. There should be one more somewhere around, and there it is. Napoli is also mid-table as well. Let's check out the winners of the FA Cup now, and we see Leipzig are the current holders of the FA Cup, having beaten Barcelona, who also lost the final last year against a Spanish side in Valencia. Leeds United managed to get themselves into a final, which is good to see. Unfortunately, they did lose it. Heading over now to La Liga, and we see Man City, of course, is on top of La Liga with 102 points and a 104 goal difference. Erling Haaland has scored 38 goals for this season. They're ahead of Liverpool, who had an incredible season themselves with 99 points. Newcastle and Brentford are right up there. Sociedad, the first actual Spanish side there, and Girona are also in the European places. But all of the English teams that have moved into Spain have made Europe. Athletic Bilbao is back into the first division in Spain, which is good to see after they unfortunately got relegated earlier in the save. We have a look at Erling Haaland's history in the league. He has absolutely destroyed Spain. In fact, he's going at more than a goal a game in his career at Man City. Seasons of 43, 41, a 46. Even a season where he only played 15 games, but then scored 21 goals in that time. And lately, he's even getting a lot of assists as well. 38 goals, 11 assists. He had a 35 and 12 recently too. That is just ridiculous. And if you have a look overall, 355 league appearances and 388 goals. That is insane. Let's have a look at the past winners of Spain. And outside of Liverpool's win last season, it has been all Man City. For the Spanish sides, only Levante has got anywhere near getting into the top reaches of La Liga. And unfortunately, that was a 3rd place finish in the 27-28 season. Man City has just dominated outside of those wins for Liverpool, and of course that incredible win for Fulham we saw earlier on. Let's head over to Italy, and it is pretty much as expected, to be honest. and that is Chelsea absolutely dominating the league now. So they are 19 points clear of Spurs, and Villa are in third place, with Sassuolo coming in fourth, which is really good for them. Brighton hanging around the place in fifth place. Let's have a look down. Everton are now mid-table, which is good after their sojourn down into Serie B earlier on. And Nottingham Forest are in mid-table as well. And checking out the past winners, it's a bit ridiculous. Chelsea have just destroyed Italy now. It is theirs and theirs alone. Tottenham have come close 5 times. Aston Villa also getting relatively close, with the only Italian sides getting anywhere near are Fiorentina and Udinese. Let's check out the Bundesliga now, and it is not Man United winning it, and in fact they're not even coming in second place, because that's Wolves in second place, who are 8 points behind Union Berlin. This is not great for Man United, who come in third, but they are still making the Champions League at least. You see Crystal Palace are just hanging on to their status in the league, 3 points ahead of the relegation places. And funnily enough, Wolfsburg have finished second last, but they appear to have won the DFB Pokal, I would imagine, because they are in Europe for next year when they will be in the second division. And poor old Luton Town are mid-table in the second division, almost exactly mid-table in fact, as they finish on 47 points, 16 points behind Hansa Rostock, who had that third promotion place. Let's see the past winners of the Bundesliga, and in fact Man United haven't won in the previous 2 seasons. Freiburg were the winners last year. Man United did have a three-peat before that. The Freiburg look like they've been some pretty big winners of this save, as they have won 3 times in the Bundesliga and have finished third on 3 occasions as well. And as we discussed before, Arsenal are essentially the new PSG, as they have won the Liga title again, this time by 8 points clear of Nice, but also 30 goals behind them too. So looks like they have pretty much destroyed this league. Sheffield United coming in 8th place. Unfortunate for them, they are outside the European places. Checking out the past winners, and Rennes and Lens have got themselves wins. So it's not all Arsenal dominance, but they have won 8 of the 10 titles. Sheffield United got relatively close a few times, but not anywhere to actually trouble Arsenal for the lead. And the final league that we'll check out is, of course, the Eredivisie. And would you believe it, but Burnley have won the Eredivisie again. And they are 5 points clear of Feyenoord this time. So they have also been a massive winner of this save. They have won the Eredivisie 3 times. Maybe I probably would have thought they'd won a couple more than that, but Feyenoord have won it 5 times, and the other 2 have been PSV. Burnley have come second on 5 occasions though, and third on another occasion. So as I said, they have done really, really well, and they have basically been in the Champions League the entire time. Speaking of the Champions League, and it is Bayern Munich who are the winners over Man City 3-1 in the final. So pretty even final there, with 2 goals to 1 at halftime for Bayern, and then an Alexis McAllister penalty in the second half sealed the game for the German, now English side against the English, now Spanish side. But if we have a look at all of the teams that are in the league phase, we see Man City ahead of Lens, who have come in second place. So they are a team that was not moved at all. So they have done really, really well to be where they are. Arsenal, Bayern, Chelsea, Barcelona, Liverpool and PSG. Not too many surprises there going through. Probably for me the biggest surprise though is that Real Madrid are nowhere to be found in the Champions League. Good old Burnley have got themselves into 12th place, so they actually made it through to the next round of the Champions League as well. The final of the Europa League was won by Inter against Besiktas in Athens at the Panathinaikos ground, apparently, which I believe would be a newly built ground. So fantastic for them. A goal in the first minute, which is funny. It's not the first time that we have seen them win in Europe in this save. Checking out the league phase of the Europa League, and we still don't see Real Madrid. We do see teams like Brighton, Sheffield United are up there, Sassuolo have done really well, but Mainz were the ones who topped the league with 8 wins from 8 games. And of course, they were a team that were not moved at all and just stayed in Germany. And to round all of this off, would you believe that Wolfsburg, who were relegated from the Bundesliga this season with just 15 points, have won the Europa Conference League against Real Madrid on penalties. That is incredible. Real Madrid had Evan Ferguson up front and could not get the job done. Dango Atara scored in the 91st minute for Wolfsburg for them to progress through to extra time and then go on to beat them 5-4 on penalties. What a fantastic achievement that is, and they will be playing in the Europa League from the second league in Germany. Let's check out those past winners of the European trophies before we finish off this video. And Bayern Munich have won 4 titles during the save, while Chelsea have won 3. So Chelsea, now being the most dominant side in Italy, has really helped them out with their European places as well. Probably getting a lot more money in and being able to sign some really good players now that they are consistently in the Champions League, and that has worked for them very well. In the Europa League, we see Inter Milan, and last year it was Wolves who actually won the Europa League ahead of Real Madrid, who lost it the year before as well to Köln. And in the Conference League, we see Wolfsburg, of course, the most recent winners as we saw just before, but Sassuolo got themselves one. Dortmund got a win, and Strasbourg got a win. And probably the best one of the lot for me is FC Utrecht from the Netherlands, who got themselves a win in 2029, which is a fantastic effort from them over Newcastle United in the final. So that's no mean feat from them. Well done. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. And of course, if you like this kind of thing, please make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos from me on Mr. Apples FM. And of course, like the video so this one gets sent out to someone new, and leave a comment down below if there's any other kind of challenge that you'd like me to do, and then I can make a video out of it just for you and all the fans. But of course, the most important thing is you make sure you have yourself a wonderful day.